My mom gave my childhood room to my sister's abusive ex and told me the house was full when I needed a place to stay. Then she had the nerve to ask for help with taxes. I sent an invoice for $3,800. My dad said I was vindictive. I said, "You made it business." When I lost my job, I told myself it wasn't the end of the world. I've been laid off before, back in my early 20s. This time was different, though. I was 30, burnt out, and the industry wasn't what it used to be. I just needed a couple weeks to reset, to catch my breath and figure out the next step. So I did what any sane person would do. I called my parents. 2 weeks, I said. That's all I need. Just somewhere to crash while I apply to jobs. There was a pause on the line. "Sweetheart," my mom finally said, her voice higher than usual. "We're actually full up at the moment." "Full?" I repeated, confused. "What do you mean full? It's not a hotel. It's your house." "Well," she laughed nervously, "with all the bookings at the inn, we've had to open the spare rooms. Even yours." "Wait, my room?" "Elias," my dad's voice cut in sharp and firm, the way he got when he wanted to shut a conversation down. "It's not a good time. We're redoing the plumbing upstairs. Place is a mess. Can't take in guests." I blinked at the wall. "But you just said." "No," he said flatly. "Not now." That was it. The call ended soon after, my mom mumbling something about staying in touch. I sat there for a while, phone still in hand, staring at the cracked ceiling of my apartment. I tried to brush it off. Maybe they really were overbooked. Maybe the renovations were serious. But something didn't sit right. 2 days later, my cousin Aaron posted a picture on Instagram, a blurry selfie with the caption, "Look who's back at the inn. Can't believe Connor's living here again." Connor. I blinked at the name. Scrolled back up. It couldn't be. Not that Connor. Not my sister's ex-fiancé. I clicked the photo, squinting at the background. The floral wallpaper. The framed landscape painting. That was my room. That was the room I grew up in. I called Aaron immediately. "Hey, weird question. Connor's staying at my parents' place?" "Oh, yeah," she said casually. "Moved in, like, last week." "Camille's not thrilled, though." "Thought you knew." "No," I said quietly. "I didn't." She hesitated. "Sorry. I thought your mom told you." I ended the call, my stomach turning. So they were full? Huh? Full of the man who once screamed at my sister in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner. The same man who left her sobbing in a grocery store parking lot because she bought the wrong brand of bread. Connor. In my old room. I sat in silence, phone in my lap, watching the screen dim to black. My mom hadn't just lied. She'd chosen him. Of all the people they could have taken in, they chose Connor. Over their son. And just like that, something in me started to crack. Not enough to break. Not yet. But I felt it. The first little fracture. I called my parents the next morning. I didn't sleep much that night, turning the whole thing over in my head, trying to make it make sense. It didn't. And the longer I sat on it, the angrier I got. My dad picked up on the second ring. "So, Connor's living at the inn," I said. He didn't miss a beat. "Yeah, he needed a place to stay. In my room," I added. There was a pause. Then he said, "He's been through a lot, trying to get back on his feet." "And I haven't?" Dad sighed, like I was the one being unreasonable. "You'll bounce back. You always do. Except this time. I called you for help," I said, my voice tight. "And you lied. Both of you lied. Because it's not a good time," he snapped. "The inn's a mess. We've got construction." "Don't," I cut him off. "Don't feed me that." Aaron posted a photo. "Connor's been living there a week." Dad's tone turned icy. "You don't understand the situation." "Then explain it to me." He let out a heavy breath. "At least Connor owns up to his mistakes. Unlike you." I blinked, stunned. "What the hell does that mean?" "It means," he said slowly, "you always show up with excuses. Always a new job that didn't work out. A plan that didn't pan out. You call for help and disappear the moment things get hard. Connor's trying." I couldn't even respond. My chest tightened, my fingers gripping the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. "He hit Camille," I said finally, quietly. "And he apologized," my dad replied, like that made it better. I hung up. An hour later, I called my mom. She answered with that sweet, sing-song tone she used when she wanted to pretend nothing was wrong. "Eli, I was just thinking about you. Are you serious right now?" I said. "You lied to me." She sighed. "Elias, we didn't lie. We just didn't tell you everything. Connor's living in my room. You said the place was full. He needed a room," she said, her voice flat. "And we trust him." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You trust him more than your own son?" There was a long pause. Then, with no hesitation, she said, "Yes." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I drove up the next day. I needed to get my stuff, and I didn't want to give them the chance to throw it out or pretend it didn't exist. When I pulled into the gravel lot behind the inn, I noticed the fresh curtains in the window of my old room. Pale blue. The ones Mom always said clashed with the wallpaper. Connor's car was parked in my old spot. I knocked on the front door. My dad opened it like I was a stranger. He didn't smile. Didn't say hi. Just looked at me like I was some guy trying to sell him a vacuum. Your things are in the barn, he said. You're not even gonna let me inside? Not today. Behind him, I could see the hallway, new rug, repainted trim. No sign of Camille. No sign of my mother. Just Dad in the silence that settled between us like a wall. I turned without a word and walked to the barn. My things were stacked in boxes. Sloppily packed, dusty, some of them clearly rifled through. There was a sticky note on one. E-stuff. Not Elias. Not of our son. Just E. That was the last time I ever set foot on their property. That was the day I stopped being their son. For the next couple weeks, I lived out of my car. I told myself it would only be for a few days. Just until I landed something. Just until I scraped together enough for first and last month's rent. But the jobs weren't calling back, and the money I had was thinning fast. I downloaded every gig app one could find. Grocery deliveries. Food runs. Package drops. Anything that would keep gas in the tank and my phone on. At night, I parked in a quiet corner of a 24-hour gym parking lot and cracked the windows just enough to breathe. My back ached every morning. I used public restrooms to wash up. $8 menu burgers and protein bars. Told myself this was temporary. Just a rough patch. Then one night, my phone buzzed. It was Camille. Camille. Please tell me you've heard what's going on. I hadn't talked to her in a while. We weren't exactly close anymore, but seeing her name gave me a weird sense of hope. I replied, me. Just that Connor's moved in. Camille. You don't know the half of it. He's freeloading. Does nothing. Eats like a king, talks down to everyone, and acts like he runs the place. Me. Mom and Dad okay with that? Camille. They love him. Think he's stepping up. I told Mom he was toxic and she said, at least he's present. Like you're not even real. I sat in my car, phone glowing in the dark, the bitterness rising in my chest like bile. They really replaced me. Not just emotionally. Physically. Literally. Connor was living in my space, driving my dad's old truck, eating at my parents' table while I brushed my teeth in a gas station sink. I didn't text back right away. I needed a second. When I finally replied, it was short. Me. Don't expect to hear from me again. No typing bubbles. No scene mark. Just silence. I didn't care. I meant it. That night, I blocked my parents' numbers. I didn't make a big show of it. Just scrolled down, hit block contact, and let it be done. It felt like cutting a weight off my ankle. But the weirdest part? They didn't seem to notice. Until they did. A few days later, I started getting emails. Random, casual little notes like nothing had happened. From Mom. Can you send me the password to the IN's Wi-Fi again? Connor says it's slow. From Dad. Are you still paying the Adobe subscription for the receipts? Can't find the login. No apology. No acknowledgement. No mention of what they'd done. It was like they were pretending the betrayal hadn't happened. Like I hadn't begged them for help and gotten shut out for someone who once told Camille she owed him loyalty like a wife, ring or not. They still wanted my help. My services. My resources. They just didn't want me. And finally, I didn't want them either. A week later, my phone buzzed with a new email from my mom. Subject, quick favor. Body. Hi, sweetheart. Could you swing by this weekend and look at the electrical upstairs? The lights in room 3 keep flickering. Also, your dad can't figure out the tax software again. Thanks. Hope you're well. Love you. Mom. I stared at the screen for a solid minute. No mention of what happened. No reference to Connor. No apology. Just a quick favor, like I hadn't been boxed up and dumped in a barn. I didn't respond. The next day, my dad texted, "Don't be childish. If you're going to be petty and ignore us when we ask for help, just say so. This isn't the time to hold grudges." I didn't reply to that either. Instead, I sat down at a library computer and pulled up an old spreadsheet I used to keep for the inn. I hadn't updated it in a year, but the notes were still there. Appliance purchases, software subscriptions, service accounts, even the monthly autopay I'd set up for their cloud storage. I tallied everything up. All the little things they never noticed, because I'd handled it all. Quietly. Automatically. Then I opened a blank invoice and typed across the top, "Outstanding balance, Elias Garner." Underneath, I listed every item with a date, amount, and short description. 12 months Adobe subscription, $29.99 per month. Nest thermostat replacement, $184.23. Web domain plus hosting 2 years, $312. Cloud file backup, $9.99 per month. Streaming music license for Lobby, $99 per year. Water heater service, scheduled by Elias, $240. And on and on. The total came to just over $3,800. I attached it to an email. Subject, quick favor. Body. Hi. Before I do anything else for the inn, I'll need this balance settled. Breakdown is attached. Let me know if you want to set up a payment plan. Elias. I didn't wait for a reply. I knew it would piss them off. Sure enough, an hour later, my dad called. I let it ring. He called again. Then came the text. Are you serious? You're invoicing your own family now? And then another. This is vindictive. After everything we've done for you. I laughed out loud. Sitting in the backseat of my car, parked behind a Wendy's, I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my phone. Everything they'd done for me? Like denying me a roof when I needed it? Giving my room to a guy who used to belittle my sister in front of them? Treating me like a handyman with a tech degree? I texted back one line. You made it business. I'm just sending the bill. Camille called that night. I answered. Connor's unbearable, she said. He told me to stop lingering in the common area like I was staff. Move out, I said. She sighed. I'm trying. Saving what I can. There was a pause. Then she added quietly, thanks for standing up for yourself. I wish I had. That was the first time in a long time that I didn't feel like the crazy one. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. 2 days after I sent the invoice, I got a text from Camille that just said, something's up at the inn. I didn't ask. I already had a guess. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Elias, my dad's voice snapped through the recording. What the hell did you do? The power's out. The guests are complaining. None of the bills are going through. Call me back. I didn't. What he failed to mention was that I had, weeks ago, already started the process of untangling myself from their mess. I'd removed my name from every utility account, closed my management access to their business software, even canceled the recurring payments I'd set up for their web hosting and online reservation system. I'd made sure everything was clean, no fingerprints, no ties. They hadn't noticed. Or maybe they had, but just assumed I'd always fix things. Until now. That evening, Camille called again. She was crying. They don't know how to do anything, she sobbed. Connor unplugged the router thinking it was a toaster or something. Now the reservation system's down, and Mom's yelling at me like it's my fault. I sat there listening, parked outside a laundromat, waiting for my clothes to finish drying in the back of my car. You okay? I asked quietly. No, she whispered. I'm so tired, Elias. Everything's falling apart, and Dad just keeps screaming at me like I'm you. Like I can fix it. I took a breath. You can't. You know that, right? She didn't answer. Then, after a pause, she said, Connor told Mom he'd take over the business, that he could modernize it. He says the place needs masculine leadership. He ordered branded mugs. That made me laugh short, bitter. They picked him, I said. Let them live with that. Camille sniffled. Dad blames me now. He says I brought this on the family by not forgiving Connor. Says I'm making things harder. I leaned back in the seat and looked up at the cracked ceiling of my car. You didn't do this, Cam. You're not coming back, are you? No, I said. I'm not. A silence settled on the line. I didn't fill it. A day later, I got another email from my mother. This one less cheerful. Subject, urgent, INN accounts. Body. Elias. We just realized you removed your name from the business services. The power company says we're in default. We need you to help fix this. Please don't let your anger destroy everything we built. Mom, everything we built? I almost replied. Almost. But instead, I archived the message and watched it vanish into silence. They were learning the truth the hard way. I hadn't just helped them. I'd held the place together. Without me, they were exactly what they'd made me feel like for years, alone, unprepared, and in way over their heads. By the end of that week, the stories started rolling in. Not from my parents. I'd blocked them. Not even directly from Camille, though she kept me posted when she could. No, the first came from Erin, my cousin. Did you hear about the party at the inn? She texted. What party? I replied. Connor through some kind of networking mixer. Half the town showed up. There's a video on Facebook. Total disaster. I found it easily. Someone had posted a shaky, vertical clip of loud music, red solo cups scattered across antique furniture, and a clearly drunk Connor boasting about his executive role at the inn. The next day, Camille called. Connor broke the TV, she said. Tried to mount it himself and pulled half the wall out with it. Also, the kitchen's missing half the silverware. Apparently, some guests walked off with it. You're kidding. I wish I was. Mom slapped him this morning. What? Swung right across the face in the middle of breakfast service. He called her a control freak and she lost it. Dad jumped in and took his side. I had to sit down. She kept going, voice trembling. They're unraveling, Elias. Like, I don't even recognize them anymore. Mom's been pacing around the house muttering about how he's all we have left. And you? I'm staying at Zoe's now, she said. Friend from college. Just for a few nights until I figure things out. I closed my eyes. I'm sorry, Cam. You told them this would happen, she whispered. And they laughed in your face. I didn't answer. What was there to say? A few days later, I heard something that sealed it. My Aunt Rachel, who hadn't spoken to me in months, texted, "Your mom asked me for money. Claimed the inn was in crisis and you'd abandoned them." I stared at the screen, then typed back, "That's not what happened." "I know," she replied. "She's just desperate. Said the business is falling apart. Mentioned refinancing the house." I rubbed my face. It was like watching a house slowly tilt off its foundation, knowing it was coming, having warned everyone, and still somehow being blamed for the collapse. Camille texted me again that night. "Connor's trying to revamp the website." I walked in, and he had no idea what a domain name was. He asked if we could just Google host it. I told him I didn't know and walked away. "Good," I replied. "That's not your job." She didn't answer right away. Then finally, "Thanks for always being honest," even when I didn't want to hear it. I stared at that message for a long time. My parents had made their choice, not just to side with someone like Connor, but to silence the one person who ever told them the truth. Now, with the foundation cracking and the walls coming down, all they had left was denial, duct tape, and the golden boy tearing it all apart from the inside. The last time I heard my father's voice before it all blew up, it wasn't over the phone or on a voicemail. It was in person, at my job. I was unloading groceries into my trunk after a gig app delivery run when I heard someone shout across the lot, "Elias." I turned, squinting against the sun. There he was, my father, walking toward me like a man with a mission. Dress, shirt wrinkled, jaw clenched. I hadn't seen him in person since the day he sent me to the barn. "What are you doing here?" I asked, already stepping back. "We need to talk," he said. "The inn's a mess. Camille left. Connor's unreliable. We're behind on the mortgage." I shut the trunk. "That's not my problem." His face twitched. "We're family." I laughed once. "Sharp. Now you remember that." He stepped closer. "I'm asking you to help. One last time. Get us out of this." "No." He blinked. "You owe us." That did it. I pulled out my phone and held it up. "If you don't leave right now, I'll call the cops." His eyes narrowed. "You wouldn't dare." "Try me." We stood there in silence for a long second. Then he turned and walked off without another word. That night, I did something I'd been avoiding for too long. I opened Facebook. Most of my extended family still followed me. Cousins, aunts, people who'd heard pieces of what happened but never the truth. My parents always controlled the narrative. Elias is going through a phase. Elias moved to the city and forgot his roots. Elias is ungrateful. So I told my story. Nothing dramatic. Just the facts. When I lost my job, I called my parents and asked to stay at the inn for 2 weeks. They told me it was full. Days later, I found out they gave my childhood room to my sister's ex-fiancé, a man who once emotionally abused her in front of them. They said they trusted him more than me. I lived in my car for weeks while they called me for passwords and software help like nothing had happened. I finally cut ties, and now they're falling apart. I ended it with a photo. My old room, now cluttered with Connor's junk, his dirty sneakers in the corner. A screenshot Camille had sent me. Within an hour, the comments poured in. "Aunt Rachel, this is horrifying." I had no idea. "My cousin Josh." "Wait, Connor?" They let him move in. But not all the comments were supportive. Uncle Dan chimed in. "Air your laundry in private. No need to humiliate your family." And of course, my mom's sister. "Family forgives, Elias." This is cruel. Cruel? Cruel was getting boxed up like a stranger. Cruel was hearing your parents say they trusted a known manipulator over you. That post became a line in the sand. People picked sides. Messages came in, some kind, some condescending, some outright infuriating. But for the first time, they were hearing my version. And I wasn't swallowing the story anymore. Connor vanished sometime in mid-September. Camille texted me the update with no build-up. "He's gone. Took the cash box, the antique clock from the hallway, and all the liquor." I stared at my screen for a moment before replying. "You're kidding." "I wish I was." Mom's in shambles. Dad still refuses to admit he was wrong. Apparently, it happened overnight. He told my mom he was going into town to meet with an investor about modernizing the inn. Instead, he cleared out anything of value and left without a trace. No goodbye, no note, no forwarding address. Just an empty room and a trail of missing items. He took the flatware Grandma gave them at their wedding, Camille added later. Even the toaster. Who takes a toaster? My parents didn't call me. Of course they didn't. They were too proud. Too humiliated. But I heard everything through the grapevine. The staff quit first, the housekeeper, the handyman, the kid who helped with breakfast on weekends. Said they weren't being paid. One even posted a review online. "This place is a mess. Management is hostile and disorganized. Would not recommend staying here unless you enjoy chaos and missing towels." Then the bank notices started arriving. Camille forwarded me a picture of the envelope, mailed to her apartment by mistake. Notice of default, action required immediately. They hadn't made mortgage payments in 2 months. I'd seen it coming. The accounts were likely still a mess from when I removed my name and cut off the autopays. They never bothered learning how to handle any of it. Camille finally said she was leaving for good. I got approved for a studio apartment near the city, she told me on the phone. Tiny, but it's mine. First place I'll live in where I don't feel like I'm tiptoeing around someone else's mess. I smiled into the receiver. You deserve that. I think about how you warned them, she said. How they laughed, like you were being dramatic. I wasn't dramatic. I was done. We sat in silence for a second. Then she added, you know what Mom told Aunt Rachel last week? That you abandoned the family in a crisis. I laughed, bitter and tired. Let me guess, I said. She left out the part where I lived in my car while Connor slept in my bed. Of course she did. I got one final letter a week later. Not from my parents, but from the mortgage company. It was a courtesy notice, not a debt collection. Just something informing me that, as a former co-signer on a closed account, I was no longer legally connected to the property. I held the paper in my hands for a while, staring at the lines in bold. No further responsibility required. That felt right. The house was going under. My parents were circling the drain. And somehow, they were still clinging to the illusion that I'd caused it. But the truth was simple. I just stopped holding the walls up. And the collapse? That was all of them. The letter from the mortgage company sat on the passenger seat for 3 days before I did anything with it. I'd read it a dozen times, just to make sure there wasn't some hidden clause. But it always said the same thing. This notice confirms you are no longer affiliated with any active or outstanding financial responsibilities at the listed property. Translation: I was free. Still, I made one last call to the mortgage company, just to be certain. I gave them my name, ran through the account number, verified the dates. The woman on the other end was polite but brisk. Yes, Mr. Garner. You've been fully removed from the account as of August 29th. You have no liability. I leaned back in my chair, let out a long breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding, and whispered, thank you. After that, there was only one thing left to do. I unblocked my parents' number. And then, I called. My mom answered. Her voice cracked on the second syllable of my name. Eli. I'm not here to argue, I said. I'm not here for closure or drama. I could hear her breathing, waiting for the catch. I kept my voice calm, flat, unshakable. I just want to be clear. You made your choice when you gave my room to someone who mistreated your daughter. You made your choice when you told me you trusted him more than your own son. We were trying to help. No, I said. You were trying to control, to punish, to erase. Silence. I'm not angry anymore, I added. I'm just done. Don't call me for money. Don't ask me to fix things. Don't loop me in when the lights go out or the pipes burst. That was your world. You burned the bridges. Her voice was barely a whisper. But we're family. Family shows up, I said. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't choose abusers over their own blood. I waited a second. Goodbye. Then I hung up. I blocked the number again and deleted it from my phone for good. About an hour later, Camille texted. I'm out. Lease is signed, keys in hand. First night on my own. I bought a microwave and everything. I smiled. Proud of you. I wrote back. You deserve better than them. So did you, she replied. That night, I walked down to the beach near my apartment, a small patch of sand and surf tucked behind a weathered parking lot on the edge of town. The wind was warm. The waves were quiet. I kicked off my shoes and stood at the water's edge as the sky turned soft orange. I didn't think about my parents, or the inn, or Connor. I didn't feel bitter. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt quiet. Still. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for the next demand, the next guilt trip, the next phone call. I was alone. And it was peaceful. The chaos was theirs now. And I was finally free.